Every so often in life, you meet a person who shines a little brighter and burns a little harder than the other people around you. Cilla North, my friend, is one of those people. She was one of the first women to have her own tattoo shop in London and basically paved the way for the way people tattoo nowadays. She and I have been friends for a long time. And even though in the business that we did together, I was the one leading the way, she has taught me more than most other people about the tattoo industry. So we got her down to talk to us. And boy, did she talk to us. So please, sit back and enjoy Cilla North on Eye of the Needle. Okay, look, what we're going to do is I want to get inside your head.
Oh, God, you don't want to go there.
Back when you first started.
Okay.
So what was the first move you made to be a tattooist?
I didn't actually make a move to do it myself. It was offered to me on a plate.
Was it?
Ooh. Yes.
Okay, explain.
Because I was getting tattooed by a person and in his flat.
As you do.
Like you do, back in the day.
Yeah.
And he wanted to open his own tattoo studio. He knew I'd been to art school. He knew I could draw. And he needed somebody to be a receptionist. And he said, come and be my receptionist. If you're any good, I'll teach you to tattoo.
Right.
6 months later, I was up and running.
Wow. That's mad.
It is mad.
Grab your microphone hook and pull it towards your mouth. You can't hurt that. There you go. So, how did you trained? But how did he taught you everything he knew?
Yeah, which actually was very little because he was being taught by Bob Roberts, who was in America.
Right.
So,
learning by post.
Almost, yeah. I mean, it was before the internet, yeah. So, but every time he went to America, he'd go and see him, and he went quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they talked on the phone.
So, okay, so you got a minimal training. Okay. Yeah. So, what's the difference between tattooing then and now? Like, so your training was what though? What did you learn on?
He did it really properly. Yeah. We went through the whole thing of how you set machines up, how you build machines, how you make needles, because we all made our own needles in those days.
When I started, we made our own needles as well. Yeah. These people have no idea about soldering irons and needle jigs.
We had a lovely little cupboard to make needles, so you were full of fumes. How I haven't got some awful disease, I do not know.
It was all cauterized later on by the other drug.
But he only knew how to make round 3s and 5s.
Well, so you could only do little things.
No, you just learnt to do big things very, very quickly.
Yeah, double line.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, right? Because obviously there's every needle known to man these days. But
yeah,
back
there wasn't then, no. And then one day he said, I just spoke to Bob and he's told me how to make magnums. Well, they weren't magnums then, they were just flats. So we started making 5 flats and then suddenly there were magnums. It's like, fuck, this is amazing.
And then you can colour in.
You can colour in.
Faster.
Yes.
That's awesome. So where was he teaching you? Because you didn't have a shop.
He did have a shop.
Oh,
we got this. When I was researching this, I looked up on Google Maps of where it was, and it was in a lovely part of Hackney.
Oh, lovely. Before the regeneration, of course.
Yeah.
When Hackney was base level, shall we say. So, okay, what was it, a shop front? Was it upstairs?
He had the whole lot. I think he bought it.
Right.
And we set up the shop downstairs and he lived upstairs.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. But the funny thing was, it started life, this shop, as a podiatrist. So there was already these little cubicles. So we just put work surfaces in.
Yeah.
And everybody had their own little cube. Well, there was only me and him.
Both of you had your own cubicles. God damn it.
Nice.
So did they needles weren't one use then, were they? Were they? Did you then?
We've always used them just once.
Yeah.
I know loads of people didn't.
Yeah.
But when I was 17, before I went to art school, I did a stint as a dental nurse.
Right.
In the summer holidays. So I learned a lot about hygiene, cross-contamination, blah, 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 blah. And the alarm bells just went off, and no, you don't do that sort of thing. Besides, they go blunt.
Yeah, well, that's what I can never understand as
Yeah.
well. Because when we were in it, and then they go, and it was a blue thing that the barbers use for their combs, right? And there's all these flipping
Oh,
needles
we never
in it.
used that.
Well, yeah, you're the lucky one,
I
then,
know.
right? And then they'd be like, oh yeah, you can only use it 3 times, or they go blunt. And I'm like, 3 times? No. And also, I think you probably know who I'm talking about from them in them days,
Yeah.
as well. And then all of a sudden, everyone got a fit of health and safety.
Yes.
And then, no, one use, thrown away.
Yeah.
But you kept the needle bars, yeah? So you sold them off and then kept the needle bars because everything cost a fortune.
Yeah, it did.
Because
And it's a pain in the arse. When you've got to make your own needles, they're fucking precious.
Yeah.
If you're, when you're setting up and you put your needle through your tube, but before that, you just bend it back slightly. And often the bastard would come off and you go, oh, bollocks. I can't get another one.
Yeah, now they just go, oh, shit, put it in the bin. Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah.
The only thing with that is the massive transition from where you were to where it is now. But I mean, fundamentally, the rules were the same.
Yes.
Fundamentally, we had to look after everyone, right?
Yeah, if you had a brain. I mean, loads of people didn't.
Yeah. Loads of
Some
people
people
got
still
sleep.
don't.
Yeah.
That hasn't
That
changed.
hasn't
to a certain
changed.
extent, no.
No, that's the truth of the matter.
But a lot of it was to do with the involvement of the government and local councils. When I like to think that we dragged tattooing out of the gutter in the 80s and 90s, because it was still seen as something really, only prostitutes and sailors got tattoos.
Criminals and sailors
Criminals,
and bikers.
Yeah.
So we were the only ones who ever got tattooed. I don't think so.
No.
The funny thing was that like the lawyers and the normal people who did always got hidden
Yeah.
tattoos. They were always under their suits, never seen, never anything.
Yeah.
And that's still pretty present today for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's still quite a lot of industries where people won't. Like I was tattooing someone the other day who trained to be a nurse in the 90s. She still got it in her mind that you can't have any visible tattoos, even though a lot of people do. Like a lot of nurses and
It's
people.
just ingrained in her, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't she saying something about, like, on her first day someone got kicked out?
Yeah, she said her first day of uni to study to be a nurse, there was someone there, she had like brightly coloured hair, visible tattoos, and the lecturer pointed at her and said, if you can't cover those and change your hair, you need to leave now. And she just got kicked out immediately.
She's nuts.
It's mental.
That is mental.
Yeah, that is mental. So, first shot, what was it called?
Fine line.
Fine Line.
I bet it was.
Because
3s and 5s.
well, it was the thing. Because up until then you had what they now call old school, big fat lines that eventually went and flat colour, and it was a really in thing over from LA, particularly I think, where you used a 3. Actually, we used a single needle outline. Jesus, that's painful.
Stanley knife blade round the outside of your tattoo.
Yep.
Nice.
And you had to set them up quite carefully as well, because where your needle tapers, you pulled 2 back to support that wangy little needle just past where it tapered. And it was a selling point. Fine line,
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of them. I mean, there was Fantasy Fine Line as well, from down in Windsor and Slough, and there was a lot of fine line shops about. So then, what happens to a tattooist who's just come through and they do all this, and you're in this shop and you're working with somebody else? What happens in your head where you go, do you know what? I want my own piece of this.
What, my own studio?
Yeah.
I didn't have any choice. I split up from him,
Right.
so I got kicked out, basically. He insisted that I got kicked out.
Nice.
I wasn't allowed to stay.
Okay. So then explain what happened. Where did you go from then?
Well, nobody would give me a job because of my past, who I was associated with,
Right.
and because I was a female. But there's always a rogue somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah.
And this guy, I can't remember his name, unfortunately. I've racked my brains and I cannot remember. He had a shitty place up in Edmonton on the 406.
Yeah.
And I persuaded him to let me work for him.
And
Nice.
okay. Yeah, I'm going to work for you, you said.
Yes, I did actually.
The thing is, also, at this point, it's still very male orientated, this whole
Yeah.
thing, isn't it, right? Tattooing is for men, right? And that's what they do. And women aren't tattooed unless they're prostitutes.
Yeah.
And women don't do tattooing. So what did you face being a woman back then?
Oh, blokes would come in and you could hear them whispering to each other. Oh my God, it's a woman. I'm not getting tattooed by a woman.
Right.
So I'd come out and I'd go, no, you're not. Fuck off out of it.
Yeah, nice one. That's the way it should be, right?
Absolutely.
The sad thing about all of this, though, is that, you know, you are a celebrated tattoo artist for a whole number of years, right? But nothing held you back. But how many women back then wanted to do what you do and weren't allowed to? You know, they weren't given an opportunity because of their gender.
That's true. Yeah.
So you would have, right? How many women around you were you working with?
What, in my vicinity?
Yeah.
None.
Right.
The only other one I knew was Chuck over in
Right.
Dagenham, who beat me by a couple of weeks opening her own studio, I think.
Okay, so your own studio, that was Original Skin, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so when did that open?
Oh, I have to look at my notes here because I can't remember. Yeah, so that guy I worked for, Gordon his name was, I never knew his surname, Gordon.
Yeah.
It was a shitty building on the A406 and they were knocking it down.
Right.
So we had to leave. And I just thought, well, bollocks, then I'll just start my own.
Yeah.
I never had any doubt. I think back and I think, my God, I was so focused, it was like, well, just fuck it, I'm going to do it. Bollocks to everybody, I'm going to do it.
Nice. The thing is, though, if you've got the balls to take it, you know, from where you were working for somebody else, but sometimes you just don't think about the realities of it.
No.
I remember the first tattoo shop I opened, I didn't think about the end result. I just did it because I knew it. I knew everything about everything because I was young, right? And then so I ended up negotiating the worst terms on a lease I'd ever had in my whole life, right? And ended up paying through the nose for this shop. But luckily, you know, more by luck than judgment, it was successful. And then, you know, we come to here and this shop now. I mean, obviously I've been through 5 shops, right? Owned them, set them up, did them, sold them on or moved them on. And then now I've learned everything. But back then, did you know how to set up these things?
Didn't have a clue. I didn't care. All I knew was I wanted to be a tattooist. I wanted to carry on being a tattooist on my own terms, not working for some bloke who thought, well, she might be good for a shag or whatever, you know.
Yeah. So, right, Original Skin open when?
93. 1993.
God, I was 20.
I was -7.
-7. Love it.
My goodness.
You weren't even a
my
twinkle,
goodness.
were you?
So you've opened up. That's quite a big shop as well. Like
Not the first one wasn't. It was round the corner.
Okay.
It was the last shop in the row. These manky little turn of the century Victorian buildings. It used to be the estate agent's office.
So, what was the setup?
Oh, it was just one room with a little back room. And I just divided it off with a counter. You know, you know that pine cladding you get.
Oh, lovely.
So I did it with that, and everybody took the piss and said it looked like a chip shop.
Chip shop being a tattoo shop. Nice. Okay. Who were your clients?
Just local people, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind? What men?
I
women?
was lucky because I did actually marry somebody who
Right.
had a job.
Oh, okay.
That helps.
So there was money somewhere.
There was money somewhere. He paid the mortgage and bought
Yeah.
the food, and so I did have support.
Well, that's good, but you've got a business to run. You've got a profit to make, and tattooing. Let's quantify this. How many tattoos did you do a week back then?
Oh God, I don't know. Not that we did a lot of little stuff.
So all the little stuffs, and also back then it was point of the wall
Yes.
mostly because you weren't.
Although I didn't want to be like everybody else. I didn't want to have wall full of just flash. I thought
have a
that was
number
really
7,
naff.
please.
Yeah, I'll have number 7, please. I've got 25 quid. Fuck all, piss off out of it.
That's it.
I wanted to be a little bit arty, you know.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're the second woman in London, right, by a couple of weeks to open a tattoo shop on their own. You were round the corner from well, I mean, down the road from Lau Hardy.
Well, we were friends at that point.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, yeah, thinking about it, he did help.
right.
Giving me advice, giving me some naff old equipment he didn't want, which was really helpful. Actually, that sounds really bad, but you know.
No, I mean, you know, water under the bridge now. But so, how were you seen? How were you perceived as the woman who done it by you know, your peers?
At that time, it was cool. I got to be friends with Lau, and he put me in touch with Naresh.
Naresh, Flaming 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who had been tattooing but needed a bit of tweaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I took him on.
Right.
And
I didn't know that.
So you opened the shop and took an apprentice.
Well, I guess I
Nice.
did. Yes, I guess so.
Well, yeah, but yeah, look where Naresh is now.
Yeah, I knew. Well, he knew the basics, but maybe I was arrogant. I don't know. I just thought, to me, tattooing is just two things: the ability to draw properly and to be hygienic.
Yeah.
Really, you don't need anything else.
No, you don't, and you still don't.
No.
But well, you need a bit of integrity.
Well, I've got buckets of that.
Yeah, and you need the balls, and you've got buckets of them, right? You need. This is the thing, right? The thing that I respect.
So I've got big pockets.
That's the thing I respect about you is the fact that you didn't stop to think, "Am I allowed to do this?" You went, "I'm going to fucking do this," and that's all that's going to happen.
It seems to be a basic thing about my personality.
Yeah.
From having an abused childhood and everything.
Right.
I just went, I'm just going to do what I want to do.
Yeah. Until not somebody says I can't, but
No.
like somebody stops me.
Yeah. And particularly if somebody says you can't do it, I'll go, yeah, watch me.
Yeah.
I think there is actually a fundamental part of most of us involved in this. That somebody says I can't do something, nobody's ever got away with that. Not even my mum and dad. Do you know what I mean? No, you can't do that. To the point where I set fire to the Wendy House curtains out in the garden, which incidentally was right next to the oil tank. Yeah. And you know, then what I did, right? Then what I did is I told them that the neighbour's kid did it because he was a bad boy. And I got away with that until I got a fit of the guilt. Don't ever get the guilt. Don't get a conscience.
The old guilt.
Plus, I think, just to butt in,
Yeah.
when I went to art school, I did printed textile design. So you can imagine the sort of people that I was in contact with.
Yeah.
And I didn't fancy it.
No.
No.
So were you drawing? So what was the setup when you were learning? Were you drawing constantly?
Yes.
Right. Because these two, we were talking about being an apprentice. Being an apprentice back then, there was none of this nicety. There was no back when I was, there was no, anything about feelings or caring about anybody's thing. You just, did what you did and got told how to do it.
I mean, that's pretty similar for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you mean feelings? Of the person that's learning or the person they're tattooing?
Oh, the person who's learning, mate.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had a good rapport with the guy that taught me.
Weren't you with him, though? Weren't you a couple?
No.
Oh, no, so that wasn't that. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But the thing that always intrigues me, though, is that learning back then, I came up through a slightly harsher environment than most because of who I was with. But was it the educational side of it then? Was it about nurture? Was it about them seeing the future because they'd be tied to you? Or was it, why did they teach you how to do it?
That's a really good question. I can't ask him because he's dead, but I don't know. He just seemed to see something in me. We got on. We used to have these competitions when we were drunk to see who could draw better than the other one. It's just really funny.
Right. And who won?
I don't know. We were always too drunk. But he'd set me exercises, He'd say, right, here's a sheet of paper. I want you to draw a line from that corner to that corner. It's got to be a beautiful curve and you can't stop. You've got to do it without stopping.
Yep.
So he'd set me all sorts of little things like that.
That's such good practice.
It is.
Yeah.
Because obviously, on skin, when you're drawing a line, there ain't no stopping, there ain't no rubbing out. You know,
My
that's the
first
thing.
ever tattoo I did on him.
Which was what? Do you remember?
It was a goat's head.
Oh, mad. So was
Hey.
mine. Mine's this one. It's a little goat's head down there.
Oh wow! Yeah, mine was a little bit more intricate, bearing in mind the fine line and everything. Yeah.
Mine was a fish.
Oh, it's fun.
Mine was
I'd
cherry
forgotten that
blossoms.
until now. It was what?
Mine was cherry blossom.
Cherry
Aw.
Well, at least you did something
Lovely.
decent. I did a
Yeah.
fish and it was shit. And it hurt.
I still remember my first paid one,
Yeah.
which was an old school snake's head. You know, that's come out of the split skin.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Fucking ace that was.
Nice one. What was mine? Mine was tribal. Mine was a bit of tribal. You know them tribal flashes out of the book. So it went shoot and across like that twice, and it was the most boring thing in the world.
Yeah.
But the first time I put money in my pocket after a tattoo. So you know,
Do you know what else he did?
no.
We would get a machine and put a pencil in it,
Oh, and do like dot work and stuff.
and you had to draw.
Well, that's how
with a
I
machine,
learned.
because those bloody things weigh 8 ounces.
Yeah,
Which
I mean,
is a lot to balance. I know people now use expensive rotary machines that
They do.
cost $1,000 and whatever, and they weigh nothing. But
Yeah.
these children both use rotaries, but he's got a cool one.
I've got a.
Yours is more of a hybrid.
Yeah, I've got a rotary that's got an armature
cam.
bar.
oh right,
Yeah, so it still hits like a coil and can like bounce off in ease.
and the point of that is,
So it doesn't hit in as hard as rotaries because you got
yeah,
the rotary motor. It just
rotaries
goes
are
in.
always terrible for outline because they go in at an angle and then flip over and come out the other angle.
Yeah. This is the point, right? That with the whole easy life thing, right? The coil machines as well. Obviously, there's a variance in the way it hits sometimes, which can be more forgiving than a rotary, right? So,
Yeah.
so with your coil, right, you have to account for the balance and you get it just right. So the angle of the needle is normally the same, right? It's you can guarantee where it's going to go because you know the machine, you know your hand.
Yeah.
Rotaries, I always wonder where there's no weight, there's no counterbalance.
Right.
That would mess
It
me
is
up.
weird.
Well, you just get used to it, don't you?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying it would mess me up.
They are just like plug in and go though. That's
Yeah.
I think that's the bonus about rotaries is just plug in and go. There's no tuning. There's no
No.
why is this
But
making
then-
that weird noise?
The soulless part of all of that is that you can't strip it down, rebuild it, and make it work. When your coils break and your hand bursts into flames because your coils are
When
shorted.
you break yet another spring.
Yeah.
Back springs. Jesus fucking wept. Right, you broke your spring and you've done your coils, right? But you've got the best frame in the world because you bought it from some geezer in
Yeah.
a back market.
Oh,
Or,
I've got some lovely frames.
well, yeah, that's the thing, and there is none of that no more.
Yeah, it is. If this starts sounding a bit weird, you just throw away and buy a new one
Yeah.
with rotaries.
Yeah, if the rotaries vibrate and shout at
Yeah.
you, then you know it's time to fuck it
Yeah.
off. But at £600 to £1,200 a time,
See,
what?
I'm so old school. I would never pay more than 150 quid for a machine.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I can
Good luck
I can
these
relate
days.
to that. It's lucky you've retired, mate. But yeah, it's odd. Right, listen, go back to we're at Original Skin, right? You got your chip shop. I mean, tattoo
Chip shop
shop.
tats.
Right, so you're tattooing some locals again. How did you get on with the locals as well? Like the people
Do you know,
around you?
people were really excited. Before I'd even opened the studio, they were knocking on the door and going, "Are you a tattoo studio? When are you opening?" Oh, I was thinking, fuck, I'm doing something right here.
Yeah.
Was there
Absolutely.
was there local involvement? Was there council? Did you have to justify your existence by paying them money?
In those days, you just had to register. Didn't cost you very. I don't even remember how much it cost.
Tattooist register. Sex offenders list.
Oh, I think it was to do. I think it was to do with the use. You know, you have to the use of your building. So you
Yeah.
Ah,
Change of use.
change of use, yeah. But initially, it
interesting.
didn't cost very much.
There was no
at all.
license or anything. There was none of this. Right, the licensing came about later on because
Well, you still got licensed in London, but it didn't cost you much.
no. But then the local authorities suddenly realised as well they didn't have a peace and they had no control.
Because they saw all the money that we were making.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, they
And
did.
then the government got interested because they thought of all the tax they were missing out on.
Yeah, but I mean, they did, and the trouble was then is that there was no mouthpiece for tattooists. So basically, so the local authority in Hertfordshire, when I opened the shop in Hertford in 4th Street, then they came to me to ask me about what their bylaws and all that should be. And I'm like, wait, you want me to tell you, right, what you need to know so you can charge me 140 quid a year?
Yeah. I got a funny story about that.
Right, well, you best tell it,
When
mate.
I set up that studio, first off, I had a friend who is a nurse, and she was in touch with some people that had access to used hospital equipment.
Right.
So I got my hands on a matron sterilizer, which was about, oh God, the size of a mini. It was huge. And it was in the back of the studio, and 2 environmental health officers came to have a look at the studio not long after I'd opened up, and the sterilizer was running, and they came in there, had a look, and they said, "Can we open it?" I went, "Yeah, if you want to. Shall I call the ambulance now, or shall I wait?" And they went, "What do you mean?"
Oh God! So they didn't even know what it was.
No.
You see, this is the thing, because also the first sterilizer we had was a pressure cooker looking thing.
Oh yeah, we went to import it from America, from Spalding and Rogers. That was our Bible, the Spalding and Rogers catalogue.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, what can we get now? But right, so then all of a sudden, the council decided that all of these machines had to have a readout that printed out a receipt to show you what's going on with all that. And then at no point did they come and say, you know, what's the deal with this? What do you have to do and all that? And I often wonder as well, who are these people who suddenly decide, and who were they talking to? Because obviously, you know, they talked to me, but later on, I mean, that's.
I think a lot of it kicked off when piercing became popular, and there was some kid up north who had a pre-existing heart condition.
Yeah.
And he got a piercing, and he got an infection, and he died.
Yeah.
And then an MP got involved and threw their toys out the pram and went, "This is terrible, blah, 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 blah. Something must be done. Protect the children."
It was a crusade.
Yes.
God, I hate crusades. It's done for the right reasons, but I hate crusades. A congenital heart defect, you know what I mean? You know, it's not, you know, affecting everything. What I do like, though, these days is the thought of the licence, right? But what happened, Mickey, when they came to licence you? What did they ask for?
A certificate.
Yeah, but certificate of what? Exactly.
Yeah, where are you going to get it?
A certificate to show that I'd done an apprenticeship.
Oh God, yeah.
Can
Yes,
you
have that.
do you understand my reaction to that?
So many times.
Do you know what I said? I said, I'll get a blue crayon and draw you one if you like, because that's all it's fucking worth.
Yeah.
And the woman looked at me like I punched her in the face. And then I said, look, anyway, you've been duped by this. You're the people we're supposed to turn to, mate.
Yeah.
And basically, people are doing up these nice certificates saying that they've done it. I've got a bugbear about this, and we mention it every show. So now you can go and pay £1 million and they'll give you a certificate saying that you can be a tattooist.
Yeah.
After just 2 days.
Yeah.
After 2 days of intensive learning.
Oh God, yeah, that exploded, didn't it? Yeah.
Oh, kiss my
Have you
ass.
heard of Habia?
No.
It's the health and beauty, whatever it is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, PME
So
makeup.
they muscled in and tried to set up an education sort of thing. They'd run it and provide certificates, but they had nothing to do with tattooing at all, which is why the tattoo and piercing union was set up.
Right, that's why that was set up.
Yes.
Because you were part of that,
I
weren't you?
was part of it for years.
Voice. A mouthpiece.
They voted me in as secretary when I went to the toilet during a meeting.
Yeah, because you weren't there to say no. Okay, so when did Original Skin grow and go round the corner to the big shop?
Oh, it wasn't, I don't know, a couple of years. It just exploded. I couldn't believe my luck. My kids were at school round the corner, which was ideal, which is why I chose that area, because so they could walk to the studio after school. And I was just doing really well. And the people that the estate agent said, look, there's a shop round the corner that's empty. Do you want it?
So they came to you and asked?
Yeah.
What?
Because I'd been so good, of course, paying my rent and everything.
Yeah.
But he offered me, you know, for a certain price. I went, no, I'm not paying that.
Quite right too.
So I got a good deal and I got the rent registered so that he couldn't put it up.
See, you knew you learned a few things by then. The thing, when did your shop, either the first one or the second one, actually pay your way?
Oh, within 18 months.
So you set up as the second woman by a millimetre in London, right? In Tottenham, right? Which, you know, was a bit fresh in those days as well.
But I was born in Stamford Hill, you know.
Well, you ain't nothing if you ain't tough, mate. Let me tell you that, right? So the reason that I'm so interested in all this is because you are where we all come from.
Yeah, true.
You know, Lau Hardy and all of that. Yeah, great. Couldn't give a shit, really. I mean, he's great and does what he does. And I have by that I mean I have no link to him. I don't know him. I know you, right? And what drives me now is the integrity that's instilled in me from people like yourselves who did it for the first time, who stood head and shoulders above everyone else, going, no, you have to do it this way, do it right. Why was doing things right and everything so important to you?
I've always been like that. And perhaps I was just too bossy, I don't know. And it just, to me, that was the only way to do it, is to do it properly.
Yeah.
To be clean, to stick by your principles.
Without principles, you're nothing.
Well, exactly. And I to be honest, I didn't really give it that much thought. I just went, this is how it's done. If you don't like it, fuck off.
Yeah.
Best way to be.
Yeah. By your own rules.
And I got called a bitch and uncompromising, but I just went, don't like it, there's the door.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's got to be that way. If I got led by the nose at the beginning and shown her anything, but then I suddenly decided that this has to be my way. And, you know, recently things have changed, and then, you know, but you fundamentally always got to do the right things.
It's what makes each studio individual, because you've got to have a thing, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to have a selling point.
Yeah. Which also, here's the other thing: talent ain't enough. Talent ain't enough. Talent is more than enough, believe me. But talent alone doesn't get you sold in this day and age.
No, I don't think it did back then either.
No, because also, how many of the shit-ass tattooists who shouldn't have been anywhere near it made more money than anybody else because they talked to the right people?
Do you know what I think ruined it?
What's that?
Reality TV. Specifically LA Tattoo. From that point on, it just went down.
LA Ink and Miami Ink and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Garver and all that, being involved in that. You know, he was a leading light in all things, from machine making to actual tattooing. What the hell was he doing on that?
Making money.
Well, yeah, but he made money, man. He was, you know, in the forefront.
Guess he must have wanted more.
I suppose that's
I did get approached by the BBC to do a show, but they only wanted my studio. Didn't want me, so I fuck off.
Quite right too. What the fuck?
Absolutely.
Can we film here?
I was very insulted. Yeah, piss off for a year and we'll use your studio. Oh, you're going to pay me then?
Yeah, well, okay, that'll cost you 50 grand every 6 months. You use my studio.
Yeah, and they went, oh no, we can't afford that.
With the BBC, don't you know? Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. It's funny though, isn't it? So when you've started all this and you've moved around the corner and you've got people working for you, then how did you cope with that? How did you, going from working for yourself and doing the one thing, how did you cope with all these other people that were suddenly in your shop?
Oh, it's really hard.
It is, right?
Oh, it's so hard.
Because you are a hard ass, but you also are a lovely person, right? And then I imagine there was a bit of, you know, there's always a juxtaposition between being the boss.
Oh, being the boss sucks.
Yeah, but it has to be that way.
And I'd go home and cry.
Yeah.
But I had an epiphany, really, when I eventually saw Original Skin as an independent entity. And I'd say to the people that work for me, you're not working for me, you're working for the studio, for Original Skin.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So don't take things personally when I tell you, don't fucking do that.
Yeah, because it's the shop, it's the what's best for the shop is being said.
Yeah.
And I had to explain umpteen times that things are done this way to A, do things properly, safely, but also to protect you. Because if you're used to doing things a certain way, somebody can't argue with you about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting. It's exciting to see that, even though, you know, there's years between then and now, but that integrity has shined bright enough for all of us to be on that. And Original Skin, without blowing smoke up your ass, right, and, you know, singing your praises, which I will do from here to there and anyone who wants to ask, right, but without that, just the fact that you were there and you fought for what was right in the tattoo union and all the other things and the things that went, that's the reason why I wanted you round this table, right, because I know who you were and are, but so many people don't, and they don't understand where we all came from. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this one here, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to let these two loose on you, and they'll talk about what they want to know, and we do. So look, part 2 coming up very soon.
Ooh.